But can I take us to a different level of government that we don't talk about nearly enough? Local government. They should be interested in rates and roads and rubbish, important things like that. But one of the things that local governments like to do is they set up what are called sister city programs or twin city programs. Quite often, a town or a city will set up a sister city, twin city program with a city on the other side of the world in a very interesting place so they can have tax-funded ratepayer-funded holidays. Working trips to those interesting places. But in the borough of Brent in London, they've done something quite different. They've decided to become a twin city with Nablus. Nablus is a city whose local government is dominated by Hamas, a registered terrorist organisation. So one of their local council members, a Labor member, Idisham Afzal, suggested to the council, which is a Labor-dominated council, we should twin city with this Nablus because it'd be a really good idea. By the way, it's in the West Bank. It's not in Gaza. So Hamas is still powerful and influential outside of Gaza. They simply haven't worked out what this means and what kind of signal it's sending. I wonder if in Brent there are any Jewish citizens, any Jewish ratepayers, and whether they were consulted by the Borough Council before they decided to twin up with a Hamas-controlled city.
But 15 council members in this West Bank city are members of Hamas. So it's absolutely outrageous that a British local government would nominate them as a sister city or as a twinning city. And this was promoted by a council member who describes himself on social media as a Pakistani Muslim. He was wearing a kafif as he spoke to council, and he said that the reason for twinning with this city in the West Bank was, and I quote, to allow children living under Israeli occupation a better future. So, Farah, it's pretty clear from his own confession, a couple of things. Firstly, this British councillor, by his own social media, doesn't see himself first and foremost as British. He promotes himself as a Pakistani Muslim. Now, there's nothing wrong with being Pakistani. There's nothing wrong with being a Muslim. But if you're a British local government councillor and you see yourself as something other than British first, that's a problem. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, just recently talked about the problem we've got in the UK is we've become a quote-unquote island of strangers. That's a problem. The second problem with this is not only does he not see himself first as British, but he says the reason, the motivation for having a city in the West Bank as a twinning city is so that children, quote, living under Israeli occupation can blah, 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 blah. Clearly, this is highly political. He's pushing a cause rather than doing something to benefit his local ratepayers who gave him the platform to speak in the first place. This is my problem with local government. It's full of wannabes, people who, I'm far too good to rubbish about roads, rates and rubbish. I want to change the world. Well, if you're that good, run for the Prime Ministership, run for federal parliament. Don't use ratepayer money in a local borough or a local council somewhere here in Australia, for instance, to push policies and things that are way beyond your pay grade.
Well, over 10 councils in the UK are now twin cities with cities in the West Bank or Gaza. So it's like a bit of a fad over there. They must think it's really cool. But the most ridiculous part of this story is the councillor who pushed for the twinning of the cities said that he hopes Palestinian children can dream of a brighter future, while becoming a twin city where the mayor of that city is a member of Hamas. Do you not realize that Hamas are the ones stopping children from having a bright future? As long as they hate Israelis more than they love their own people, there will never be peace, and those poor Palestinian children will never have a chance because there will be an endless cycle of war and violence. If they were serious about peace, they would be looking at real dialogue, real coming together of Israelis and Palestinians. But they're not, because this is not about peace. This is about hating Israel, which personally, I think comes down to Jew hatred, and that is what it is, plain and simple. And also keep in mind, Nablus is notorious for being a hotbed of terrorism. Just in the last year, the IDF recorded 6,000 terror incidences in the whole West Bank. 1,000 terror incidents were thwarted by Israeli security forces. This is a dangerous place. Nablus in particular has around, I think it's 4 refugee camps, which basically are breeding grounds for Hamas. So it's really dangerous.
So if you're a ratepayer and you're listening to your local councillor say, part of having a twin city with Nablus is that we can bring young Palestinians to our borough in the UK to bond with our young people.
Enjoy that.
I'm not sure that's such a great idea. One more thing before we move on. You know, there's a common feature with all these woke councils, whether they're in the UK or in Australia. You start to look at their finances and you always find they're raising their rates continually. I don't know how ratepayers put up with it, but this particular borough in the UK, they have just raised their rate levy to the highest permissible level. It's an absolute outrage. They're charging the maximum amount for people living there to pursue these internationalist policies that have nothing to do with helping locals.
Yeah. And they should have consulted an Australian local councillor, an Australian.
That would not have helped.
Yes, he would have said, mate, really bad idea. Twin with Suva in Fiji, much better beaches.